What is going on? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network. Today is Tuesday, November 11th, in the year of our Lord 2025, and today is Veterans Day, which we will talk about here in a second. And you saw the opening credit there that where we are honoring all of those who served. But before we get into that, I just want to let everyone know that this is where we can come to get equipped to stand firm, speak truth, and fight back against a culture that is trying to steal your faith, your family, and your freedom. Because this is a spiritual battle, make no mistake about it. And the fight, the spiritual battle, never takes a day off. So we are done pulling punches. Done. The gloves are off, and we're getting after it. So be sure to follow us on all the socials at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, Truth Social, all of them. And if you want to wear the fight, be sure to grab your gear at missionreadymen.com. And I just got a note saying that the audio is a little off. So if it is, please let me know. I'm not sure what I can do about it at this point. Nothing's changed since the last time. But anyway, as I said, if you want to wear the fight, grab your gear at missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all of the great designs that we have there. All right, now that business is out of the way, it's go time. And you saw, as I said, the opening, the opening screen there where we are honoring all of our veterans. And it's not just another date on the calendar like all the different ridiculous days that everybody comes up with on social media. National Tequila Day, National who knows what. I got all kinds of different one. National Pirate Day, and I'll just leave it at that. But this is a day where we pause to honor those who raised their right hand and swore to serve and protect this great country. And there's a difference. A lot of people always get Veterans Day and Memorial Day confused and mixed up and wish people a happy Memorial Day, which is not appropriate in my opinion. But we're gonna, and I'm not really gonna get into that right now. We can talk about that on Memorial Day, but Veterans Day is not about partisanship. It's not about it's not about who you support in terms of political figures and activists and stuff like that. It's about gratitude. It's about sacrifice, and it's about duty. Veterans Day actually started. It wasn't originally called Veterans Day, just to get into a little history of it. It was originally called Armistice Day. And well, thank you for letting me know that. Apparently my audio is really low, and I'm not sure what to do about that. Hang on a second. We'll see if we can we'll see if we can figure it out. I don't want to do too much to exacerbate the issues that we're having. Uh, but it is what it is at this point. Let me know if that's any better. If not, we're just going to have to let it ride and fix it in post. Anyway, um, Armistice Day was founded on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, when World War I officially ended. And Woodrow Wilson, who is largely regarded as one of the worst presidents of the United States ever, actually, this is probably his best accomplishment, um, by proclaiming Armistice Day. Eventually, it became Veterans Day after uh, World War II, and World War II and the Korean War, and it was um, expanded to include all American veterans, not just the ones from World War I. And President Eisenhower, I believe, signed the bill that changed it from Armistice Day to Veterans Day. And of course, leftist LBJ decided to change things up and and move the day so that it became a 3-day holiday to give people days off and all kinds of other ridiculous nonsense. And that was met with some backlash. And Gerald Ford decided to change it back. And that is how we have the Veterans Day as it is currently celebrated. Veterans Day honors everyone who has worn that uniform. And it's not just the ones who made the ultimate sacrifice. It honors all the living veterans and the ones who did make that sacrifice. It's a day where we appreciate those people who made that sacrifice. Um, it is it and we can get into what I think we should do for our veterans, but that's a discussion for another time. But it's a day where everyone needs to stop and contemplate what it is that veterans have done for this country. It's if you know a veteran, thank them. Thank them for their service, whether they served 2 years in the reserves or 30 years, a 30-year career in the armed services and saw combat and all the rest of it. It doesn't matter. Everyone who raised their right hand to potentially sacrifice themselves deserves that honor and that respect. And it very rarely, I shouldn't say never, but it very rarely makes headlines. Um, but it's something that everyone who did take that oath they deserve that respect. Ronald Reagan once said, and I have quoted this many times, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And the veterans who have protected this who have protected this nation uh, deserve that recognition. I'm not going to get into the differences between Veterans Day and Memorial Day right now. It's irrelevant for this discussion. If you know, you know. But I quoted Reagan, who said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. Pew Research did a poll back in last year. 60% of Americans still believe that the military has a positive effect on society. Adults under 30, and I'm not even sure you can call these people adults at this point, but 53% of adults under 30 say that the military has a negative impact on society. Can you believe that? I was blown away when I heard that. In 2025, Ipsos did a poll. 76% of adults say they hold veterans in a high regard. What is up with the other 24%? I'm blown away. Absolutely blown away. Younger Americans, for some reason, well, we know the reason. The reason is they're largely indoctrinated by leftist ideology in the education system, but they don't understand. They don't understand what service means because they live in this society where everything is about me, me, me. Everything is about what can I get and how quickly can I get it. And fewer young people actually have veterans in their family that they can look up to and that can instill in them this the idea of service and what it really means. Social media and the internet can be a great thing in some cases, but it has had a negative impact in that it elevates influencers who have nothing to offer society at large except they have nothing to offer. They really have absolutely nothing to offer. They parade around in bikinis for the dudes, and I don't know. It just and people who know me know that I really absolutely hate having to engage in social media. I have been known to doom scroll on occasion, but at the same time, I know I need to do other things with it, and it's just it's just annoying. But anyway, getting back to the point before we move on here. A nation that allows its people to forget the sacrifices that its defenders have made will soon find themselves undefended. I mean, we have a generation now that most of whom could not qualify to serve in the United States military. And that was before Secretary of War Hegseth raised the standards back to where they needed to be. The standards had been lowered beyond belief. And a lot of these young people who are holed up in their mother's basements playing video games could not qualify. Add to that the fact that they don't really have any respect for the military. The, having this country undefended is a prospect that is looking more and more like a reality to come sooner rather than later. And that is sad. That is very sad. So I just want to close this out. We need to begin to teach this next generation that we owe veterans more than just a thank you post on social media. We owe them the I don't want to say the ability, but we owe them the prospect of having another generation to come up after them to take up the mantle. And we don't have that right now. We don't have that right now. Scripture says that no greater love has no man than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. And we need to get back to that ethos that we once had. I mean, there were guys, boys in World War II who lied and said they were older so that they could go fight. And now we have people who don't even want to bother. They're not even trying to lie. Just, that's not for me. And that's sad. And we need to do something to turn that around. So it's as a veteran myself, it's sad to see what is happening to the people who are supposed to be stepping into those roles. But to the veterans who are listening, thank you. Thank you. We honor you and remember everything that you've done and everything that you've sacrificed for us. Thank you. All right, y'all. Someone says, let's hear about your service, Earl. Yeah, one day. One day we'll talk about that, I think. It was my honor. It was my honor. All right. So moving on to the headlines of the day. It looks like the government is about to open up. And if you head over to shrmedia.com, you can see a lot of the articles that Sackhead Sean and Jersey Joe have posted about this shutdown and the subsequent reopening that is about to take place. The government, the Senate voted last night 60-40 to open the government. They passed the CR that is now going to head over back to the House for them to vote on and send it over to the president's desk. The clowns clowned around all too long, 40 days, and got nothing. Got nothing. And I'm going to be honest. I really expected the Republicans to give up to give up something. I really expected it because we've talked about before how Republicans have raised snatching defeat from the jaws of victory to an art form. It's at the point now where we pretty much just expect that to happen, and it didn't. It didn't happen, and I'm shocked. Honestly, I'm shocked. What they did, they funding levels, funding is going to be at the current level until January 30th of 2026, and they appropriated a full year funding for some agencies like the military, the VA, agriculture, until September 30th of 2026. Again, shocked. Shocked. I don't know how they did it, other than the fact that the Democrats realized that using using the suffering of Americans as leverage, they realized that that was a losing strategy. And not all of them, because 40 senators voted against it. And yeah, Rand Paul was a Republican who voted against it. I have lost so much respect for Rand Paul over the years that I don't know. He was great. He was absolutely fantastic when it came to grilling Fauci. And he has gone off a cliff since then. But anyway, they did not cave on the Obamacare subsidies. There's going to be a vote, but they didn't make any promises that it would pass, that they would actually that they would pass that going forward. So we'll see. We'll see if this backbone that they've found continues. This is a good thing, though. This is 40 days, and the Democrats got absolutely nothing. This is a good thing because the government is going to reopen. Federal workers are going to get to go back to work. They are going to receive their back pay, the ones that missed paychecks. And President Trump even floated the idea of having the air traffic controllers who missed paychecks who actually stayed and worked and didn't take time off, get a $10,000 bonus. Seems excessive, but I get it. I get it. And we'll see. We'll see what happens come January 30th, 2026, when this fight comes back around. Because despite the fact that the Republicans surprised me with this, I fully expect that this to come back and be another fight on January 30th and into February 1st, it's a potential for another shutdown. It's a potential for another shutdown. I don't know if the Democrats have the stones to do that again. We'll see. And I don't know how permanent this backbone that the Republicans have found is. So we'll just have to wait and see. But what is glorious about this, what is absolutely glorious about this, is the meltdown coming from the left. It is absolutely glorious to watch. You have the likes of Kyle Kulinski breaking down and all kinds of others. But this one right here, this one was this one was pretty funny. And let's see if I can find it here. Yep, here we go. Check this out. This is one of the cackling hens on The View, one of the Harpies, Sunny hosting. Check this out.
Republicans run the Senate, the Republicans run the White House, the Republicans run the Supreme Court, as far as I'm concerned. This was a choice by Republicans to cut SNAP benefits. This was a choice by Republicans to cut ACA subsidies. This was a choice by the Republicans to gut the federal government and federal employment. Democrats had nothing to do with it. I want an opposition.
There are people watching this, watching these harpies, who actually believe that. They get their news from these fools, and they believe what she just said, which was a complete and total lie. Let's continue.
Party. I think the Democrats caved. I think the Democrats let down the American people. And like you, Whoopi, I have absolutely no faith that the Republican Party will come to the negotiating table in good faith. You know, you do something like this, shame on you the first time. You do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, shame on me. Shame on the Democrats for even believing that the Republicans will, even vote on it. There's no guarantee in this New Deal that there's going to be a vote. There's no even commitment to have a vote. So the bottom line is the Democrats went into this after a blue wave out of the American people saying, we keep his caucus together. If he cannot keep his caucus together, he needs to go. He needs to.
It was not a blue wave. It was not even close to a blue wave. In those elections that we just held, the Democrats won in blue states. There were no surprises. It was not a blue wave. The Republicans didn't choke. The Republicans lost in states where they lose. The fact that Glenn Youngkin won the governorship in Virginia is an anomaly. And Tim Kaine, he just completely imploded. But that's they lost in blue states. It is what it is. I think this is Sackett Sean. Everything they say is a lie. Everything Democrats say is a lie. Democrat politicians are liars. Democrats are no better than Islam. At least Muslims admit there is taqiyya. Well, no, that's not Sackett Sean. I can guarantee that is that is our good friend BZ. Yeah, they're lying. They're lying. And Jon Stewart is another one who completely melted down. They just, oh my goodness, they are losing their minds. Absolutely losing. And this is check this out.
On the shutdown. By the way, tonight's show will be brought to you by I Can't F***ing Believe It. I can't f***ing believe it. For when the I can't believe it Edvard Munch scream emoji doesn't quite convey how much you cannot f***ing believe it.
losing their minds. Absolutely losing their minds. And one last one I want to show you. It's not a huge meltdown, but it's still pretty interesting to watch. This is MSLSD talking about how President Trump pulled this one out.
We spoke about this earlier, but it's strange, Dean, to go back to the original sort of part of this conversation of whether he is a good deal maker. I mean, in a way, it seems like the president is kind of getting what he wanted 40 days ago when all this started. He was out there saying that, oh, this is all about Democrats trying to give health care to illegal immigrants. He just said that to reporters moments ago, repeated that refrain that Democrats had actually very successfully pushed back against. Then there's all this energy. In the wake of the election on Tuesday, the president made remarks saying basically, wow, Republicans are being harmed by all of this, acknowledging that he was on his back foot. And now here he is winning again? How did he do it?
The Democrats, I don't understand how a Democratic senator goes, wow, we won really big. Let me cave now. I don't understand. That makes no sense to me.
Well, maybe to Anthony's point, if they were cynical, like if we wanted just to hold this out until we get through the election, and then after the election, we got the wins.
We spoke about this earlier, but it's.
Well, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. They held out until the election and then caved. BZ says, isn't it beautifully glorious? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I am loving every minute of it. And hopefully, prayerfully, come January 30th, all of this is worked out and we don't have to go through this again. And they actually get an appropriations bill together. Oh, thank you. I'm glad it worked out. It didn't make a huge change, but and the thing is, it's weird. I don't change the setup at all. I do not change the setup. I haven't even rebooted since the last show. I don't know. Anyway. This epic meltdown doesn't just tell us that they're mad at Republicans. They are furious, absolutely furious with their own team. And again, I'm here for it. I am absolutely here for it. Watching them melt down like this is glorious, as BZ said. And it's a tantrum that will never get old to me, ever. As long as the Republicans keep holding out, as long as the Republicans' spine holds up, this is going to be another glorious 3 years. And then hopefully another 4 after that, or 8 after that with JD Vance. But this is good. This is good because we're finally going to get some stability back. Federal workers are going to get paid. Air travel will hopefully get back to normal. And that's probably another thing that happened because they didn't want to be seen. They keep telling us, they keep saying that polls show Republicans, that people are holding Republicans responsible. No. I don't believe that for a second. I do not believe that for a second. They know that they are the ones being held responsible for it. And they knew that if air travel during the holidays continues on the trajectory that it has been on since the shutdown, that they will be eating every bit of that. And they didn't want that. They did not want that. And as much as I would love to see the Democrats have to deal with that, I also don't want Americans to have to deal with the inconvenience and the all the setbacks that would entail. So this is a good thing. What I want to see, is something that we haven't had since Bill Clinton was in office, and that is an actual appropriations bill, an actual budget that they stick to. An actual budget, because this fight, this shutdown fight that happens every year is old, and it's annoying, and it needs to end. And I think it was Senator Johnson who proposed a bill that would make shutdowns illegal, or something along those lines. It would prevent shutdowns. That needs to happen too. And until something like that does happen, despite this success, this go around, it's going to happen again. They're going to have to do something about it. So the deal's done for now. The left is melting down in glorious fashion. Absolutely loving it. And I am just so here for it. And I want to see the left continue to melt down. I want to see Republicans continue to pile up wins, because as long as they keep piling up wins, the left has absolutely nowhere to go. And one last, I wanted to touch on this, because I didn't really want to get into it, but I decided that I do want to talk about this, because they're all mad at Chuck Schumer. They're all saying that Chuck Schumer isn't effective as leader anymore, suggesting that he actually was effective at one point. I'm not so sure about that. But regardless, they're saying that he's no longer effective, and he is going to be challenged, or the speculation is he's going to be challenged for his Senate seat by AOC. Okay, bring it. Because as ineffective as Chuck Schumer has been, AOC in that Senate seat will be a gift to the Republicans. An absolute gift. She has done nothing but agitate and preen for the cameras since she's been in the House. I don't think I'm not even sure if she's written any bills, but if she has written any bills, I know she was responsible for that Green New Deal resolution, but that wasn't a bill. And I have my doubts that she actually wrote any of it, but she's passed no legislation. She's sponsored some ridiculous bills that went nowhere. That's what's going to happen if she's in the Senate. She's going to do absolutely nothing, and that's what we want. I think there is a bit of a difference. I don't think Chuck Schumer is as BZ says, really, what's the difference between Schumer and AOC? Same. I don't think that Schumer is as far left. I don't think Schumer is I know he's been beholden to them and he's done their bidding, so to speak. So in that respect, yeah, it's the same. But she is going to advocate for some of the most ridiculous far left policies that I don't think Schumer ever would have done without that pressure from the left. and she's going to happily advocate for that stuff. She is, I mean, you saw her breaking bread with Zohran Mamdani. They are same. They are same without a doubt. And to have her in the Senate proposing some of that stuff, go for it. Go for it. I want to see it. I absolutely want to see it, because that would be amazing. All right, y'all, there's a few other things. Well, there's a lot I want to get to. But right now you are watching and listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch my good friend Sackhead Sean with The Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe, who's in the chat. Thanks for being here, Joe. Every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ, who is lighting up the chat with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. And he will be on tonight. He will be on tonight. So please like and subscribe and share all of these guys' great shows, and pray for us that we continue to break through. Last I looked, we were at 668 subscribers. And that is amazing. So thank you all for subscribing and sharing. We love it. We love you. So please continue to do that. And because we want to make sure that we reach as many people as we possibly can. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. And I wrote an op-ed. I believe it dropped yesterday. And after I wrote it and I continued to read about what was happening, I was even more appalled at this. And then I saw the aftermath of it and just could not believe what I was seeing. And I wrote this: trusting a former terrorist, bold strategy, big risk. And this article is up on SHR Media, so please go ahead and check it out. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but this is about President Trump inviting a former terrorist, and former is in air quotes for sure, and we're going to get into that here in a second. But he invited this guy to the White House. It is the current leader of Syria. I'm not sure if he's president or what, but his name is Ahmed al-Sharaa. And he is, as I said, he's a terrorist. Let's just call it what it is. He's a terrorist. And President Trump invited this guy to the White House, I guess because he's now the leader of Syria. I mean, he actually met with him over in the Middle East. I don't think he met with him in Syria, but he met with him over there somewhere. This is a huge, huge gamble. I think it's a mistake altogether. But this guy was wanted by the United States. And he actually was a prisoner of the United States. And now all of a sudden he has glowed up to the point where he is meeting with the president in the Oval Office. And for the life of me, I can't figure it out. I mean, I understand diplomacy. I understand wanting to, well, actually, I don't understand wanting to have good relations with a terrorist, but I understand that it happens. I understand that it's probably at least somewhat necessary from that diplomatic point of view. But inviting him to the White House is just that's a bridge too far for me. That's a bridge too far for me. This guy, and President Trump's, when he was asked about it at the press gaggle in the Oval Office, that was bizarre. Let's yeah, here we go. Listen to this.
Syria you had earlier, did you come to any agreements today?
Well, I had an agreement with him. He's a very strong leader. He comes from a very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. I get along with him. The president, the new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to make Syria successful, because that's part of the Middle East. We have peace now in the Middle East, first time that anyone can remember that ever happening. And,
making Syria successful. If Syria is successful, especially with this guy leading them, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Because this guy is a terrorist. This guy is a terrorist, plain and simple. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this. Where'd it go? Here we go. This is the guy. Here he is holding the severed heads of his enemies. I know that sounds graphic, but this is the guy. This is the guy that was meeting with the president in the Oval Office, who he said is a strong leader. This guy made his bones in terrorist organizations. He is responsible for the deaths of many service members. I don't get it. And when I wrote the op-ed, I hadn't seen this picture yet. And I hadn't done as deep a dive into him as I had after I posted it. I wanted to get it up because I knew that meeting was taking place. For all those people who say that we're in a cult, and we're going to talk about that, we might get to talk about that a little later, but for all those people who say that we're in a cult and we just say and accept everything that President Trump does, this is right up there for me in terms of his mistakes and the things that I disagree with him on. This is right up there and probably even ahead of his Second Amendment stuff and his signing of ridiculous spending bills in his first term, among several other issues I had with him. This is the worst. I do not support this whatsoever. And if you wanna, if you wanna have negotiations with somebody like this, he is a head of state, so I get that. But don't do it in the public eye. And don't sit at the Resolute desk and talk about how strong a leader he is and how much of a tough guy he is. I cannot support that. I cannot get behind that. That is utterly ridiculous to me. This is supposed to be some kind of recalibration of relations with Syria. BZ says, I understand that Trump thinks he can cut a deal with anyone. I believe that's from whence this stems, but it's just plain wrong. Yeah, I agree. And it's funny you mentioned that, because President Trump thinks that prosperity can fix everything. And I think intellectually he knows that Islamic jihadists want to kill us. I think he has enough smart people around him impressing upon him that fact. But I think between his ego being able to thinking he can solve any problem, and the success that he's had is feeding that ego, I get it. But I also think that he thinks prosperity can fix everything, and that making Syria successful, making these Middle Eastern countries successful, and having billions of dollars flow through them will all of a sudden make them forget that they're Muslims and that they're taught in their holy book and their hadith to hate us. I don't think he understands that. They are taught in the Quran and the hadith that everyone must submit. The translation of Islam is submission. Peace through submission. As far as they're concerned, there can be no peace until there is submission. And apologists will say, well, they mean submission to their God, not submission of everyone else to them. No, that just tells me that you haven't read the Quran. And I haven't read the Hadith. I mean, the Hadith is an extensive writings going back hundreds, if not thousands of years, well, hundreds of years, interpreting Muhammad's words and stuff like that. But I have read the Quran. And people who say that that's not what Islam means, they haven't read it. They haven't read it. Or they're just choosing to ignore the parts that say that. Islam, as far as they're concerned, must rule. Must rule. And they're allowed, not just allowed to use deception like taqiyya and some other concepts. It's their responsibility to deceive people in order to advance Islam. It's their responsibility. It's their duty as Muslims. And for this to be happening is just veterans and combat vets, people who have lost their lives over there fighting this scourge. This can be seen as a spitting in their faces. This can be seen as spitting on their graves. And I don't believe for a second that he means it that way. But perception is reality. Perception is reality, and it can be perceived that way. Now, in my op-ed, I talked about how this needs to be approached with caution. BZ mentioned in the chat, these things should be done back channel, so it's not out in the open like this, and he's not seen praising this guy. That's not in President Trump's nature, apparently. And another thing that I've noticed, his cabinet members, his advisors, have repeatedly tried to temper some of the things that he said publicly, try and walk them back and things like that. I haven't heard anybody, excuse me, try to walk this back. I haven't heard anybody try to walk this back. Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio. And now maybe I just missed it and haven't seen it yet, but the fact that it hasn't been publicized, because you know that if one of his advisors, one of his cabinet members differs from him in any way, the American Pravda is going to pounce on that. And I haven't seen it. So I'm not sure what that means. But this guy can't be trusted. There's a picture of him standing next to President Trump when they met over in the Middle East. And the look on his face was one of somebody who knows that he has his foot in the door. This was a look of somebody who knows that his plan is working. His plan is working. And I just hope I pray that President Trump and his advisors are approaching this with the caution that it requires. But the fact that this is not being done in back channels, I'm not so sure. And not to mention, what does Israel think about this? What does Israel think about this? They are still launching rockets into Israel, into the Golan Heights from Syrian soil. So I imagine Netanyahu is not happy about this. Nothing says progress like inviting somebody who wants to kill you to lunch and hoping that they don't chop your head off. This guy is a terrorist. He's a terrorist. There's no former. The American Pravda is trying to frame him as a former terrorist. There is no former. And there are a number of other pictures that I'm not going to show you of this guy and the people who he has led doing unspeakable things. Just insane. This is one of those areas where I completely disagree with President Trump and how he's handling the situation. Completely. All right. I want to move on because even though I'm kind of moving on because we're still going to be talking about Islam. And this is something that we need to continue to talk about. Because Islam, as we talked about before, is all about conquest, is all about submission. And they're playing the long game. They're playing the long game. BZ says, Islam has pushed the gullible, naive, and ignorant to believe that to oppose them is to be racist, a hater of Islam, a hater of brown people. Their propaganda levied against us has worked. Yeah. Yeah, you are absolutely right. And I don't know how we combat that, because it's become so ingrained in so many people at this point. I mean, I've been called a bigot. I've been called a hater just yesterday, I think. And so, somebody blocked me on X because they saw my post talking about Islam, I guess, and said, well, I can't have any truth in my life, so I'm just going to block this guy. I guess that's what happened. I don't know. But anyway, I want to move on to, well, I want to go back because we've talked about the elections, and Mamdani won, and all these Democrats won. In Minnesota, there was a candidate for the mayor of Minneapolis who was a radical Islamist, just like Zohran Mamdani, but he lost. He actually lost. He lost to the incumbent mayor, Jacob Fry. He beat Omar Fateh, who is a Somalian progressive. And you'd think that the far left would celebrate this so-called representation. But Ilhan Omar, when Jacob Fry beat Omar Fateh, and I think it went to a runoff or something like that. It wasn't announced day of, but Ilhan Omar, as you can imagine, was not happy. And multiple outlets have reported that she went off on Somali voters for not supporting Fateh. She allegedly chastised tribes and clans that didn't unite behind him. And she seems to think that some Somali voters in Minneapolis voted for Fry instead. When you import the third world, you get the third world. When you import warring clans and tribes, they're going to bring that conflict here. And apparently, from what I have researched, there are a number of tribes, and the tribe that Fateh and Omar are from, have been warring against this other tribe or clan that has also settled in Minneapolis, and they decided they didn't want to back Fateh. You know, let's. I'm not going to play the whole thing because she says it. She does it in Somali, but there are some subtitles, so we're just going to read those. In fact, you know what? I'm not even going to let you. You're not even going to have to listen to it. Just watch, and I'll read the subtitles, and we can go from there. Check this out. She says, when a Somalian person becomes an enemy, they become a serious one. There are people like that living right here in our city. We all see them. Some of us try to dismiss it, saying, oh, that person just talks too much. Leave them alone. That's my relative. I'm not even sure how. Anyway, forget it. She can barely speak English, and Somali is even worse. But anyway, the fact is, she was chastising her fellow Somalians who happen to come from a different tribe for not supporting Fateh. She's called it a betrayal within the Somalian community, and rather than it being just a typical political loss, it's a betrayal. It's why we have allowed this to happen, I will never understand. And she's actually, well, you know, before we get to that, the progressives are downplaying this as the progressives are downplaying this thing. It's no big deal. Conservatives are saying that it is proof and evidence that identity politics is still alive and well, but devouring itself. The Diversity Coalition is eating itself. Diversity is not a strength. As Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, said, unity and single-minded purpose is strength. When you have these warring factions, when you have these warring tribes, there's absolutely no way that can possibly be a strength. And it's not unifying at all. They spent years telling us that race, religion, ethnicity, class define political reality. And now they're seeing that logic being turned on themselves. And this is a common theme. The left always eats their own. And they're doing it here. This is on one hand, it's funny. On one hand, it's funny because this is the left eating their own. This is again fun to watch, but it's happening here on American soil. Warring tribes that we've imported are impacting Americans in a negative way. And as glorious as that is to watch from a distance, up close, it is doing damage that we will recover from it, but it's going to take a long time. And as long as we keep importing these people, as long as we keep importing the third world, regardless of which country it's from, this is going to continue to happen. Whether it's Somalians or Congolese, whatever warring tribes are out there that are trying to come to the United States, as long as we continue to let this happen, this is going to be the result. I guess BC heard the dogs barking. Yeah. Someone showed up. That's why you can never cut a deal with Islam. They not only hate the outsider, they hate themselves, and alliances change weekly and monthly. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And not only are these people fighting amongst each other, but Ilhan Omar has actually, she is on record. She is on record saying that, where'd it go? She is on record saying that she is all about Somalian interests, and she is working from within the United States government to advance Somalian interests. The only reason she's still in office is because we have imported so many Somalians, and they are concentrated in her district, and that's why she's still there. But, and if you think I'm lying, this is again in her language. I'm gonna let you hear it, but pay attention if you're watching. Pay attention to the subtitles here.
soonidaas inaan isku qabno anaga Soomaali hadii aan nahay wadankan anaga ku nool wadankan wadankii aan anaga tax ka dhiibno waaye waa wadankii gabar idinka dhalatayne ee Congress ka fadhiso intii aniga aan Congress joogo wadanka Soomaaliya biyaheeda dad kaleete iyo badeeda dad kale ma qaadanayaan wadanka Mareykankana kuma taageerayo dad kaleete in anaga ayna dhacaan marka taas ka seexda reer Minnesota gabadhii Congress u dirsateen way idinka war haysaa sidaad idinka u dareemaysiin dantaas ay u dareemee madaxweyne Xasan Sheekhna waxaan leeyahay
She said together we will advance the interests of Somalia. She should have been booted out of Congress for that alone. And this was years ago. That should have been enough. Of course, I think when she said this, the Democrats were in charge, and Pelosi wasn't gonna do that. But she should have been censured. She should have been booted out of Congress for saying that she is going to use her seat in Congress to advance Somalian interests. As a nation, we have enough problems without going out of our way to import even more problems. And foreigners, those who have no intent on assimilation, are caustic and destructive. Yes. Absolutely. You are 100% correct. You are 100% correct. This is what happens when unity takes a backseat to identity. Somali, Muslim, whatever the identity is, this is what you get. This is what you get. And I'm going to stay in Minnesota here for a second because I mentioned him in the beginning. Jacob Fry. He is the guy who beat Omar Fateh. And he did some of the most ridiculous pandering that you could ever possibly imagine. And I think I have that. Yeah, here we go. This guy, he may not be the worst mayor in the country, but he's in a discussion. He was mayor during the Summer of Love, George Floyd riots, and he was useless then. And he is mayor in a town that has a ridiculous number of Somalians. And this is him after he won his re-election bid.
Habin wanaagsan. Magacayga waa Yaroub Farid. Gobolka magaalada Minneapolis.
Yes, he gave about 2 minutes worth of his victory speech. I'm not going to play it all. You get the idea. About 2 minutes of his victory speech in Somali. Wow. I don't think pandering even scratches the surface as to what that was. And he thanks Somalis in Somali in the greatest fellation of American foreigners, our enemies in known history. Couldn't have said it better myself, BZ. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is supposed to be one nation under God. And the mayor of a major city, a major American city, is celebrating in a language that, despite the large voting bloc of Somalis, most people in that city don't understand. Don't understand. And yet, here he is celebrating in a foreign language. A win in an American election, celebrating in a foreign language. And he's not a foreigner. It's beyond comprehension how far we've fallen and how much we're pandering and bending over for Islam. Because Islamophobia, because bigot, because what? Why? They absolutely hate us. They hate us and want to see us destroyed. If they could march into this country right now and enslave every single one of us, they would. They absolutely would. And we're pandering to them because we don't want to be seen as racist or bigoted in some way. That is suicidal, self-destructive behavior. He humiliated himself. He absolutely humiliated himself in that. He is an American winning an American election, speak English. Period. End of story. This was a political calculation on his part. Because the Somalian voting bloc in that city is so large, he wanted to make sure he finger on the pulse of that. And here's the thing: if you watch that video, and look at the looks on the faces of some of the people in that crowd, they are not impressed. They are not impressed. And my guess is some of them were from the tribe that was against Fateh, and they just didn't want to vote for him, so they voted for the other guy. Because those people were not enthusiastic voters of him at all. At all. But what this does show us is that, yes, it is suicidal thinking on our part, BZ, absolutely. And Democrats and leftists have zero shame. You are, as usual, you are 100% correct, my friend. But what this does show us is that the Red-Green Alliance, the political union between Marxists, communists, and Islam, is thriving. I mean, we saw that in New York with Mamdani. But even though this guy beat the Islamo-communists in Minnesota, and Omar Fateh is an Islamo-communist just like Mamdani. Some people have said, I've seen some commentators says he's even worse than Mamdani. So take that for what it's worth. But he defeated the Islamo-communists, but then basically took up his platform. What sense does that make? And I know trying to make sense of something that a leftist does is an exercise in futility. I get it. And this isn't the first time. It's not like this was out of the blue for him. He's spoken at events in Somalia before. I found at least 2 other occasions where he's done it. So this guy is a panderer of epic proportions. Epic proportions. And all he's doing, he's doing this to show, I guess, that he's inclusive or something. Can you imagine 10 years ago, a politician doing this, 15 years ago? Can you imagine if Ronald Reagan, after he won the Cold War, gave a speech in Russian to appear inclusive? Come on. They would have looked at him like he had lost his mind, and he would have if he had done something like that. This is illustrative of the balkanization, and it's our own fault because we imported these warring factions. But it's evidence of a balkanization of American cities based on race, religion, language, ideology, all of it. And, as I mentioned, imported loyalties that are not loyal to the United States. This so-called melting pot that we all learned about when we were kids has turned into a buffet. And you can just pick and choose whatever you want on your menu, but it's not cohesive in any way. It's not unifying in any way. In Minneapolis, and this is true in cities all over the country at this point, because there are so many imported third world residents that have just taken over. If we keep electing these people, if we keep electing leaders who will speak every other language but English, don't be surprised. Do not be surprised when your liberty gets lost in the translation. Because that is their goal. That has always been the left's goal. The left hates the fact that we have the liberties that we do, and they have been working for decades to try and erode them. And now that they have this new vector, they're going to use it. Anyway, folks, that is all I got for you this time. I ran a little bit over, but I will keep trying to make each episode better than the last. If anything that I said hit home for you, please take a second to like and subscribe and share this video and share the SHR Media channel with everyone that you know, because we're not just here to opine. We're not just here to bloviate. We're here to spread the message of conservatism and the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the banner, and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for future generations. And if you want some cool gear, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs that we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.